Tonight I'm going to do the truth about his feelings pick a card. You choose a number, 1 or 2, and the timestamps are in the description box below. I have pulled the 6 of Cups, the 4 of Wands, and the 10 of Cups. This spread tells me that your person, your man, wants to reconcile with you. I feel for some of you, you are going to receive flowers, and that will be his way of apologizing to you, first of all, and also of showing his affection for you. He's realized he's staunchly loyal to you. I feel this as a man who is alone. He can be very cold-hearted though. He has something about him is very emotional, but also very intellectual. I feel he's a combination between a water sign, Pisces, Cancer and Scorpio, and an air sign, Gemini, Aquarius and Libra. I really get the impression that he does want a successful relationship with you presently. It shows here the twin flame card. I feel this man is a drinker actually, but he's alleviated that condition. So it gives me the impression that it's kind of always hanging over his head. His sobriety is always hanging over his head, but he is trying. That's a strong impression I get, because it shows that he's quite an energetic guy and very loving, and that he wants emotional fulfillment with you into the future. So he could want a house and land and a family. Those are the types of things he has in his mind to have with you. That's also in the back of your mind, but I feel he's confronting those issues now. It's like he wants to just keep giving you a pot of flowers. You know, I wouldn't be surprised actually with this Wands energy and this Cups energy together if he doesn't try to spoil you with flowers. So you might receive a bunch a day or something like that. That's the strong impression I get, because he's going to start being very insistent. And if you don't feel he's that way, well, he's seriously thinking about doing that, because he's thinking about romancing you. He's thinking about how he can reconcile with you. He also has in the back of his mind where you met, and it was a multi-story building. It could have been a little bit older, but he thinks about that constantly. He also feels you're a very successful person. I feel that in the past, there's been some deception about his behavior, but he's turned away from that completely. It's like he's turning around his life at the present time. I feel that if this is a person that appreciates good wine, I mean, he could want to open a bar or something. You know, I just get that impression that he's a drinker. And he's had some problems with that. But he's starting to appreciate life again. That's what these cards really show. So the prospect of maybe like a more permanent arrangement or a more loving cohabitation is something that he's thinking about a lot. Because I really feel that he feels like in the past he's just been a man with a dick. You know, he's been like a stable, dick, basically. A solid but stable dick. And he's even turning away from that because he feels that his behaviour was too deceptive in the past. He feels he slept around too much. He feels like his whole attitude from that time was too destabilising. He feels that he became a liar. He feels that something about his character was too negative. And I feel your love has pulled him out of that. That's what these cards show. Because he's always reminded of the happiness he feels when he's with you. So if you got the impression that he was really happy around you, he was. He liked you greatly. I feel you made him smile. I feel he's slightly taller than you, but that's not unusual in men. Because it's now showing there's a purity in his emotions. Before I feel they were a little bit complex, like there was a loyalty there, but he was working through issues. Quite serious issues, I feel. He's just saying that you have a common ground. That's the strong impression I get. He's seeing it that you have a strong common ground with one another, and he wants to be more giving with you. That's the impression I get. However, there is a spoke in the wheel in this depiction, and the spoke is that he is separated from a third party. He was with somebody for many years. He set up a life with somebody for many years. He did have a partner. They are separated. He wants that back in his life, and he sees you as a person that can bring that back into his life. He may not be divorced yet. I don't see him as being divorced. I feel there's some sentimental type of mindset that he has about his separation from his former partner. So if he's married, he's not divorced. If he was partnered, he's separated. That's the strong impression I get. I feel this was a woman from his past when he was a fuckboy, actually, because she's a fuck girl. She's really passionate. But she's a fire sign, and he's a more of a cool sign. So he's like water. He's made up of a lot of water and air. But I feel that his ex is fire, like pure dragon breathing fire, whereas he's very sensitive. So they would have had some conflicts, and he would have felt controlled by her as well. And he's even realizing that relationship made him really happy, and it was really stable for a really long time, but it was too deceptive. That's the strong impression I get. So now he has a perspective which is kind of strange, because he's thinking to himself, I love this girl, but I also love my former partner, and this girl reminds me of her. I don't think I'm going to go back to my former partner, but I'm wondering whether I can set something up. I'll have to try and win her attention. That's what he's saying to himself at the present time, because he really wants to see you again. He's going to be really persistent. I think his persistence will get aggressive. So if you're on the other, you're watching this or listening to this, and you're saying to yourself, oh no, well, it's going to happen. He's really going to shower you with affection. If he's a type that he can take a more physical type of action. If he's not that type, then he's going to be dreaming about you quite aggressively. And if you're just in a crush stage, you will find that he shows up everywhere. I mean, if you arrive at the gym, he's at the front counter. If you arrive at work, he's, I don't know, around the reception area ready to meet you at the lifts or something. Just those types of incidences, I think. Really persistent. So it could get a little bit passive aggressive, but it's out of love. It's not like it's weird, because it's more of a very enthusiastic type feel, but very loving. So it's not like he's obsessed with you, don't get me wrong. He's obsessed with you. But it's much gentler than that. It's like, how can I win her affections? How can I smile at her in the morning? How can I make sure I find out what her take is on us? That sort of thing. It's not weird. It could be weird if he was unstable, but I don't get that impression from these cards. I'd have to do like a personal or something. But because I'm only doing a 3-card reading. But I'm just trying to make the point that he has high hopes for you both. He wants to take you somewhere. Oh, that's sweet. I think he wants to take you to see fireworks. Yeah. He was watching you today. Huh? That's amazing. He was watching you today. Watching you from somewhere. I don't know where he could have been watching you. That's amazing. But also he thinks about how you also appreciate wine or drink or something like that. He sees you as a bit of a dreamer. Actually, you're a bit of a dreamer. I think you are very independent, but there's something very soulful about you, very intuitive, and he appreciates that. But you are the biggest inspiration in his life. He does want something successful with you. He's just trying to figure out a way how he can approach you again. That's the impression I get if you don't see him every day. He's going to try to move this relationship forward from here on in. It's going to be a very assertive type of action he takes towards you. So you have to think very carefully about what your reaction would be if he approached you, if he was assertive towards you, because I get the impression that he could tip those cups pretty easily if you rejected him. So he would be very assertive and you might be kind of coy. And if you're coy and you're not on guard, he could just flick that cup. I don't think he'd do it in anger. I think he'd just tip it on its head and he'd decide to go away. Shows in the future, like if you did something like that, it would quell his thirst for you, his thirst in love. But it's like, I think if you really want this guy, you have to think about your reaction to him. Because it's like, if you reject him this time round and you really like him back, then you could be delaying things. But also, I feel you want to be balanced about the situation because you are so independent and thoughtful. It's like you want to follow your passions, but there's a balancing act there. It's like you could probably go for it, but you are going to take a much more considered approach. I think you'll be excited if he approaches you. It kind of shows him in the background on his own. So I'm not sure how that will work out, but it seems to work out better into the future than it will in the present. So I feel that maybe he's just getting a fire in his belly now, and the work will be done further down the track. But he is just considering his options right now. He's feeling very jittery, very excited about you both. And I really feel he's genuine, quite genuine. It doesn't like show me any earth cards here, so he's going to go at it full bolt. But I think if you don't think he's a weirdie, then you should consider how you're going to respond to him, if he really shows his affection to you, or if he really shows his likeness to you, or his emotions to you in some way. Like, I wouldn't go turning like a blind eye to it. Definitely not if I liked him back. But it's like if you think he's a weirdie, you're not going to bring up a tarot reading anyway. I don't think you think he's a weirdie, but if you do, well, your response will have to be different, obviously. You'll have to take a different type of approach, because this guy really is passionate about you. Okay, so that was deck 1. If this reading resonated, please like, share, subscribe and comment. If you would like a personal reading, my details are in the description box below with a link to my website and to my Fiverr account. My website is a PayPal service, and my Fiverr account has a few more options for readings if you'd like to take a look. See you next time. This is deck 2. I have pulled Judgment, the World, and the Two of Coins. This deck tells me that you are two independent people, but there seems to have been a reckoning in this situation, because I can see you're in a stage of hope, renewal. You're a little bit emotional, but you're turning away from that time. I feel that in just up until recently, you could have been quite upset, or, deep in thought over your emotions for this person. So I feel you were in quite an emotional state, but you've quite suddenly turned yourself away from those emotions and from the hope you had in this person, because you feel like you feel there has been an awakening in this situation. You're really focused on your success in life and your success as an individual. I feel that there is a lot of hope in your soul, and you're really looking forward to getting out there again, because it shows me you're in quite a depressed state or an introverted state, and you're almost going through a stage of renewal. That's what it says to me. I feel this guy's from overseas, but you've decided on something about it. It has a soulmate connotation, but it's like a soulmate connection that has been completed. It's like the cycle is complete with the pair of you. You could have some ideas about traveling. I feel that traveling frees your soul. That's the impression I get. Distracts you quite a bit. But you plan to travel independently of this other person. He's a funny thing. I feel he gives me a Pied Piper feel. You know, he like leads the rats to water. But he's also like, I don't know, he feels like he has some kind of control over the world. He's sexy. But he's leaving success in his wake. So he was successful in his past, but I feel he's the emperor with no clothes now. That's the impression I get. He's the emperor with no clothes, so he's fallen from grace. But he still maintains his arrogance. But you're playing this association to the beat of a different drum now. I feel he was trying to influence you in a type of you know, he was trying to be music to your ears. That's what it says to me in these 3 cards. But it was sort of based on his ego from his past. It's not based on his circumstances in the present, which aren't great. I think this guy needs to face something because he feels on top of the world to me. Like, I feel his mentality is very egotistical, but he's not in the position to be that way because you've got the 2 of coins here. I feel you're at harmony and you feel this cycle is complete. You feel it was a soul connection. You feel it could have been, you feel it could have been a karmic, but I feel it was just a soul connection, a strong soul connection. But it also shows the darkness in this guy. So he's the darkness and you're the light. So it's like a funny soul connection to me. It's like 2 opposing forces. But he's got to sort through some ego, some serious ego. Yeah. He is passionate about you, but it's like the earth has cracked under his feet, but he's not acknowledging it. He's trying to put everything else in front of him, every excuse under the sun to avoid facing the weather. So I really get the impression that he might be in like a type of delusional state about his circumstances, because this is a guy who used to be on top of the world. Like, he used to be a real go-getter, and then something happened and he lost his footing. I feel he doesn't really have that much money anymore or much success. He's just trying to find his balance in life. He's had to begin again from scratch. So that tells me he had a tower moment in the past. And he hasn't learnt his lesson because he's not humble about that lesson. He's still got his complex, his personality complex, which is very ego-driven. Whereas he should have approached you in a more humble fashion, he took a very arrogant or egotistical stance. Now, that could be passive-aggressive, or it could be that it was very evident to you, but you would know what I'm talking about. But I feel you are really rising above this situation. You don't have any, I feel you don't feel malice towards this person or hatred. I mean, obviously you're asking about him for a reason. It's just that his treatment was very egotistical. And I feel that he needed to just come down to earth, and he didn't. That's the impression I get. Because he looks upon you as somebody very pure, somebody that perhaps has somebody else in their life. He imagines a lot of things. But he is in a third party situation anyway, this guy. He's trying to not, he's trying to judge people in third party situations, but he doesn't look upon himself as being in a third party situation. So he's really confused. Like I feel he's full of himself actually. Because he's like the guy that tried to expose cheating at some point in his life. And now he's the cheater. So there's definitely been a reckoning with this judgment card in the deck. And with the world card in the deck, the karmic cycle is at an end. It's at completion. And I feel there's going to be change for both of you into the future, but particularly him, because he's lost his world. He's lost his whole world. He just hasn't realised it yet. I think he's still in fantasy land about the pair of you. But when he wakes up, he's going to have to accept the change in his life. And that change in his life is unfortunate. He almost becomes the man with no soul. He's going to be the man that only has the clothes on his back and nothing else, and picks a penny up from the street and looks at it, but not a penny that can buy him anything. Then he walks further down the street and he finds another penny, and it still can't buy him anything. That type of mental state. So he's going to have a wake-up call, because he's going to realise at some point that he's lost you. He kind of had some hope that you had like wealth or something. I can see in the world card here, like you were his laurel. Yeah. But he's on a lonely road into the future, very lonely road. And not because he didn't love you, because he was a man in love. It's just that his circumstances are funny. He has a strange attitude. And I feel he has a strange attitude because he's in denial about a fall from grace. He can't accept his fall from grace in life. And I feel that you are central to his world in some respect, but you seem to realise that it was just an illusion, and you've turned away from that prospect. You probably would like for him to wake up to himself. You would like that. you would like the opportunity for him to be a better person and for him to wake up to himself. But it says that you've also made the decision to just end the cycle, and he'll be left on his own, juggling life again. Okay, so that was deck 2. If this reading resonated, please like, share, subscribe and comment. If you would like a personal reading, my details are in the description box below with a link to my website and to my Fiverr account. My website is a PayPal service and my Fiverr account has a few more options for readings if you'd like to take a look.